One. Yo, what's up? Welcome inside the opening line. Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. My man, Rad Thad, holding it down for Bernie today. Thad, we used to get this done back in the Sirius XM days. It's good to be on here with you as a part of the Elite Mafia.
Yeah, man, I'm proud to be here. Glad to be able to fill in for my main man, Benny, while he's out there in Amsterdam doing what people do out there. So looking forward to today's show, man.
So I want to start off with last night. We had finally had an interesting Thursday night football game. I am not the biggest Jared Goff supporter, and everybody knows that. But now I think everybody is starting to come to my side. When I'm like, this guy is just not that good. Now, the Rams fall to the Seahawks at home. That's not so much of a big deal. They do cover the number. But this Ram team, probably around the three-quarter mark last year, started struggling. And they haven't since. They were shell-shocked in the NFC Championship game. They were able to get past that. They were destroyed and exposed in the Super Bowl. And so far this season, we've seen some poor performances. They get the loss yesterday in the division game. What do you think about the Rams thus far?
They should have won that game last night. I'll give it to them. At the same time, I am surprised that they should have won that game. You know, they lost last second by a field goal. Russell Wilson, that's a grown man. He had 4 touchdowns last night. So they kept it closer than I thought they would. As far as Jared Goff goes, I was never really on that Jared Goff train. I mean, I think he's fine. You know what I mean? But he's not in that upper echelon of quarterbacks. You know, for example, yesterday Russell Wilson scored 4 touchdowns. That's what I expect from Russell Wilson. I don't expect that from Jared Goff.
No doubt.
He threw 1 touchdown and 1 interception. That's what I expect from Jared Goff. I think he's had a multi-touchdown game in terms of throwing touchdown passes once in the last 13 weeks, something kind of ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
So he's not a guy that I'm expecting to, you know, granted, he threw for almost 400 yards. He can get those yardage games.
I'm not impressed by that thing.
Yeah, I'm not impressed by that. He's got enough weapons where I expect that. He should be able to do that. You know, with Goff and with Kupp, Woods, you know, the rest of those guys, he's got a lot of options out there to throw the ball, but he's just not getting it done. Like I said, I've never been on that train, and I don't see any reason to jump on right now.
Todd Gurley scores 2 touchdowns yesterday. Give his owners a little bit of trepidation, make them sleep a little bit better. Gerald Everett, though, comes through with a big game out the blue, 7 for 136. If he was on that showdown slate and got involved with Gerald Everett, you got to be feeling pretty good this morning.
Yeah, he wasn't even on my radar. I did play. I don't usually play those showdown slates, not because I have anything against one-game slates. It's just because I'm not incredibly good at them. If I was good at them, I'd be playing them all the time. But the lineups that I did have, none of them had Gerald Everett on it. And he certainly came through, 136 yards receiving. So impressive.
No doubt Cooper Kupp continues to get it done as well. The rest of them, Cooks and Woods, like I keep telling cats, they're really very inconsistent. Kupp is the guy. And so is Todd Gurley still apparently. On the other side, big game from Chris Carson. He runs for over 100 yards on 27 carries. We also see the great play by Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. But, man, the Will Disley hype train, bro, is starting to get rolling now. I thought Disley may be an every now and then touchdown scorer. He's looking more and more like a part of the offense.
Yeah, and if you for those out there who actually saw some of those receptions that he made some tough catches. You know, these weren't just some shots to the breadbasket where he just kind of caught the ball and fell on it. He had an injury early on in his career, and so he kind of started off the gates a little bit slowly. But, you know, he led the team in yards last night with 81 yards, tied for the lead in team receptions with Tyler Lockett for 4 receptions. So he's obviously an important part of this passing game. So it's a matter of recognizing that sooner than later.
Yeah, no doubt. So that puts a bow on last night. Seattle Seahawks, they get the victory. They carry on. So far in the season, the Seahawks 4-1, a couple of unimpressive victories, but this one right here is a pretty good one. The Rams fall to 3-2 on the year. So there goes the way of the Los Angeles Rams as they are looking to, get back to the NFC Championship game, or at least win the division again at this point. Right. let's get ready to break down and hop into this week. And let's start with Cardinals and Bengals stat. I've been losing a lot of money on the Cincinnati Bengals, and I'm prepared to do so again. I'm going to money line them this time, right? But I just look at the offense at home. I don't think they slipped to 0-5 at home. Arizona has been kind of a doormat. I think Tyler Eifert can get it going this week. If I had to lay the 3 with the Bengals, I would. I prefer the money line, though.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and if it were against any other team, I'd be a little more cautious, especially after seeing how Cincinnati performed against Pittsburgh the other night. But when it comes to the Cardinals, these guys are basically going nowhere fast in terms of the offense, playing very quickly. A lot of short shots up the field, not really throwing deep, not really any massive scoring threats, especially with Christian Kirk out with this week with a high ankle sprain. I like Cincinnati in this one for sure. If for some reason Arizona pulls it out, then, Cincinnati's already got enough to worry about. They're really going to have to circle the wagons if they don't pull this one out.
Yeah, I think the AJ Green thing is looking more and more like contract more so than injury at this point. So it's going to be interesting how that one plays out. That kid Auden Tate that everybody ran to the waiver wire to pick up this week. What do you think about throwing him in some DFS lineups? We did the stream yesterday with Vlad. He was like, he think it could be chalky.
He will be, in my opinion, one of the highest owned players on this slate. Probably by the end of the week, he'll probably be like the second highest owned guy in the slate, maybe second to a guy like Christian McCaffrey, because he's so cheap. He's minimum salary. John Ross is injured. Tate got a number of receptions over the past 2 games. I think he's gotten maybe 14 targets over the last 2 games. So he's certainly going to be involved in the offense, especially on a team where they haven't really been able to do a lot in terms of establishing the run. They're going to be playing up against a team that's the fastest paced team in the league, so they will be getting off a lot of plays. They already like to throw a lot, so I think he will be incredibly chalky, and for good reason.
Yeah, no doubt. If you picked him up this week in your season-long league, I think it's a good time to play him. Nothing pays sports bettors like betting against the Atlanta Falcons. We get another chance to do it this week. They're laying 5 on the road at Houston. Houston has had 2 bad home games so far this season. The offense didn't look good. I always find stuff like that interesting when teams play bad at home. If it's a trend that continues, it's normally something going on inside the building that's throwing them off when they get home, and they can come together better on the road. Atlanta just is not playing good ball right now. All that talent, but the coaching staff influx. I think Dan Quinn does make it to the end of the season, but that whole staff will be gone. One of the things that me and Benny have been talking about the past couple of weeks with this number 5, the crooked number, the number everyone like to stay away from, it's a number I embrace because what I've seen with the trend is the number 5 has been leading the blowouts. And once again, I think the Texans are going to blow the Falcons out this week. I think they're going to put the Falcons down for good.
I absolutely agree. Now, my hometown is New Orleans. I'm a Saints fan. We hate the Falcons. So this is not coming from the heart. This is coming purely from the matchup, purely from the numbers. Falcons have been bad in terms of passing defense. They've and overall defense has allowed at least 20 points to each opponent this season, 20 or more points. I don't think that's going to stop this weekend. I think Deshaun Watson, Hopkins, Fuller, those guys are going to have their way with Atlanta in the air. And I just don't see a way that the Falcons are going to be able to keep up with this one. I think that this is going to be a popular game, especially from a DFS standpoint.
Yeah, no doubt.
So I wouldn't expect any of these guys to fly under the radar. I think one guy that I would keep an eye out for in the event that Kenny Stills misses this game, Keke Coutee is a guy that is a pretty interesting option. Before Kenny Stills showed up, Coutee was the guy who just kind of ran in those 3 wide receiver sets and ran in the slot and got peppered with targets. Certainly someone that I would keep an eye out, but only in the event that Kenny Stills is out.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think Stills is kind of taken over. Not taken over, but I think Stills has moved up in the pecking order. You would go, but if Stills is out, you would go Coutee over Fuller.
I would go Coutee over Fuller only because everyone's been talking about Fuller all season. They've been every game. Everyone is expecting Fuller to have a breakout, and it just hasn't happened yet. I think he has maybe a total of 6 receptions on the season, something really low. But so from a numbers standpoint, if Fuller does well and he's heavily owned, that's not really going to help you out a whole lot.
No doubt.
If Coutee does well, he's going to really do well. He's super cheap and he'll be low owned. So that's the guy that I'm looking for in a GPP that I think will separate you from the crowd for, like what I already said, will be a popular game.
Oh, okay, yeah, no doubt. That's interesting. I haven't heard that angle on it yet, but I think it makes perfect sense. Baltimore Ravens up to a 3.5-point favorite. I am the biggest Lamar Jackson supporter that there is. Pittsburgh, they still might suck. They were in a spot the other night that was good for them to get a victory, and they came out and got it done. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure Pittsburgh still sucks. Baltimore is probably the class of the division, in my opinion. But laying 3.5 on the road is tough. I probably would money line it, but Lamar Jackson, the whole crew, I'm down with the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. I'm down with the Baltimore Ravens this week. I'm
down with the Ravens as well. I think, one thing to recognize with any sport is when a situation changes, whether or not it's a temporary change or a permanent change. And when Ben Roethlisberger got hurt, a lot of people were thinking that maybe it was just a temporary change until everyone else got back up to speed. But you can tell by the way that they're using Juju Smith-Schuster, or by the way they're not using Juju Smith-Schuster, that this is the new norm for the Steelers, and they look horrible. Lamar Jackson is a stud. He's got some weapons that, he basically, who he's going to. He's going to Hollywood Brown. Yep. He's going to Mark Andrews, and in his back pocket, he's got that rushing ability. Mark Ingram can also provide some rushing stability there. So I think that and this game is – I used to live in Baltimore, and Terrell Suggs said it perfectly when it comes to the Ravens versus the Steelers. He said, I know that hate is probably a strong word, but it applies. So these guys do not like each other. So this isn't going to be some situation where if the Ravens are up ahead, they're going to feel comfortable and take their foot off the pedal. These guys want to clobber these dudes. So, and I think that's what's going to happen when it comes to Ravens and Steelers.
Buffalo Bills, Tennessee Titans. Titans laying 3 at home. I'm on the Titans here. I know the Bills have been decent to start the season, and they've been covering numbers too. But I just look at the Titans are funny. The Titans are the type of team that are go on the road to Dallas and win, and then come home the next week and lose to the Dolphins.
I know, and the thing is, I don't know. There isn't a level of consistency with Tennessee, or should I say, with Marcus Mariota, that you can feel safe in any situation, road or home. Just when I thought that it was going to be Mariota's last stand, he ends up throwing a couple of touchdown passes and having himself a good game. So he basically saved his job to fight another day. Josh Allen got roughed up against New England, but that Bills defense is the real deal, man. They made Brady look normal. So if they made Brady look normal, they can make Mariota look subpar, and I'm kind of expecting that this weekend. I know that Tennessee's that home favorite, but I just don't think it's going to look good for Tennessee this
Interesting. So you're on Buffalo. What do you think about some of the pieces? What about the tight end Dawson Knox and you know who I think is always sneaky every week? Yeldon.
Yeah, the only problem with Yeldon is I think Singletary's going to be back this week, and also the rushing ability for Josh Allen pretty much puts a bit of a damper on any other Bills running back not named Frank Gore. They love that dude. So between Frank Gore and Josh Allen's rushing ability, that kind of leaves everyone else out. Yeldon is in there mainly for the passing work, but I think he's kind of that third wheel, that third/fourth option when it comes to rushing and receiving.
All right. The Chicago Bears and the Oakland Raiders, they take it across the pond in London. Bears laying the 5. There goes that crooked number again. I like the Bears big in this one. And I particularly like the Bears because I am not a Mitchell Trubisky guy. And I think Chase Daniel can come in and get the passing game on track.
He's much more efficient. And just basically in general, like you said, with this, I didn't know that when it comes to that 5. and it makes sense. I really love the Bears this weekend as a team in DFS. I think they'll be a team that you can stack that'll be a very, very, very low owned option. I noticed that a lot of times these London games tend to go over because I don't know if it's because the teams are tired, the defenses are tired, making that trip, sightseeing, what have you. But these games tend to get to go completely unexpected. This was a situation where Blaine Gabbert had perfect passer rating numerous games over there. So the unexpected can happen. But I think when it comes to Chase Daniel, I do like him. In the last season, I think weeks 12 and 13 when he subbed in, he and Tariq Cohen had a nice connection going on there. So I do like that. He's much more accurate. Allen Robinson the second as well. I think the running back situation there is starting to stabilize for Chicago. Really, really like the Bears this weekend.
Interesting. Darren Waller and Darren Waller, especially this week, is probably a good play. I'm not sure what Tyrell Williams' status is. This game right here, and obviously ballpark factors is more of a baseball thing than it is and than it is in the NFL. But this game right here, I think is being played at a different facility. I think this game is being played at Tottenham's new venue.
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I don't know. I would have to double check on that.
Yeah. Jaguars and Panthers. I don't know how to read this game right here. Jaguars catching 3.5 at home, and I kind of like that. But the last 2 weeks, I've been on the wrong side of the Panthers.
I like Jaguars 3.5 at home a lot, actually. I think that it's a new look Panthers. It's kind of like a similar situation with the Steelers, where you kind of just have to start from scratch in terms of what your expectations are. With Cam Newton out, Kyle Allen is he's a lot better than people thought he was going to be. He wasn't really lighting the world on fire in college, but he stepped it up in this offense. I think Christian McCaffrey is a guy that they're going to ride him into the ground. The guy had 37 touches last week. And even though the Jaguars defense is formidable, they are vulnerable against the run. I think that in terms of DVOA against the run, they're 23rd in the league. I do expect the Panthers to grind this one out. And Panthers defense is the real deal. These guys are in the top 5 in terms of DVOA. They're rushing. The defensive line has been rushing really well. So I do like the Carolina in the 3.5.
The Minnesota Vikings and the New York Giants, there goes the crooked number again. The Vikings laying 5.5 on the road. Obviously, Kirk Cousins in the bounce-back spot right here. Look, this is not an NFC North game. Kirk Cousins stinks in those games. Problem is, that's why they paid him $84 million. He'll go on the road and bounce back nicely against the Giants this week, but I still think it's trouble in Minnesota.
Yeah, I think that this is a situation where if they were ever in a spot to try to maybe cool things down a bit in terms of trouble in Minnesota, this would be the game. I'm surprised that it was only 5.5, that they're favored by only 5.5, because I expect them to go into New York and tear the Giants up. You mentioned trouble in Minnesota. Adam Thielen expressed his displeasure in terms of lack of usage in the passing game. Stephon Diggs missed practice for 2 days for just kind of being disgruntled and wanted to trade. I think that this is a situation where if they wanted to, they could only pass the ball 10 times like they did earlier in the season and still come away with a nice win. I think that this is a situation where they will try to get the passing game involved because they can do it all in this game. So I think everybody can kind of have their cake and eat it too. I expect these guys to blow the Giants out.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm with the I'm on the same page as you on that one. I think NYJ's in trouble this week. The legend of Daniel Jones. Let's not put him in Canton just yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming up, New England and Washington. Washington catching 15 at home. I've lost bets on Washington each of the last 2 weeks.
When you start to get
McCoy plays, I actually like Washington again this week.
I think he's going to play. He's been practicing with the starters, so I'm expecting him to play. I picked him up in some season-long leagues where it was a double quarterback, 2-quarterback league where I was kind of struggling for some warm bodies at my second quarterback. As far as a spread that high in an unknown factor with him starting, I would have to stay away just because if anything, I think the Patriots come out strong. After watching that game against the Bills last weekend, like I said, they made Tom Brady look normal. And Tom Brady doesn't usually have back-to-back games where he looks normal. I expect these guys are in a situation where they always do the unexpected. And with the spread this high, I would expect these guys to hand the ball off to Sony Michel. Whether he would be productive or not is another story.
I'm a Michel owner, and I'm getting and I love Michel. I'm getting kind of frustrated, son. I'm like, do I play this MF for this week?
The problem with Sony Michel is you have to. The thing is, if you ride him every week, in the long run, you'll come out on the winning end. It's just if you try to pick and choose which weeks he's going to have good weeks, it's just impossible. He's already had situations where he's had the volume, he's had the matchup, just hadn't come through. But they are intent on using this guy. I mean, it would be a better situation if, there were less mouths to feed in terms of the running game. But you kind of have to stick with him. And it's frustrating, man. I think these guys are more – this weekend, I think it's going to be more about Tom Brady bouncing back. I think Tom Brady has himself a nice game. Julian Edelman and Josh Gordon, going to have themselves some nice games as well, just to kind of so they can reestablish dominance in terms of that offense. The defense is already looking spectacular. So I think, but when it comes to Sony Michel, in a season long, you're just going to have to ride it out. I mean, it's just kind of realize that you might get it like you might not.
Yeah, no doubt. And we have not to start the season.
Correct.
But in Michel, I still trust. The Jets and the Eagles, if Sam Darnold gets the start, I'm going right back to Jamison Crowder. He goes right back in the lineup. I will not touch the spread on this game, though. I think the Eagles are laying 13.5 at home. Alshon Jeffrey is looking like the Eagles' red zone target also. And still waiting for Miles Sanders to get it going a little bit too, even though he has been productive. Just want to see him get in the end zone.
Yeah, the problem with Miles Sanders is not necessarily Miles Sanders. At least this week, it's not Miles Sanders. It's Jordan Howard. That breakout game he had last weekend really set back Sanders to some degree, especially in a game where these guys are favored by so much. They can easily just do some damage early and let Howard, carry them for the rest of the game. I would be really surprised if Sam Darnold started this week. I mean,
really?
He went from it's really hard to go from non-contact drills to all of a sudden starting in a game, especially in this situation. This is a situation where if he plays and gets hurt, could be like a life-threatening situation. It's not like an ankle sprain or a knee where it's even career threatening. This is life threatening if something happens to his spleen.
Yeah.
I think they let him rest for another week. I don't have any inside information on it, but just kind of from a realistic point of view, I think he's going to sit out for another week.
All right. Well, and then if he does sit out another week, do not dare put any New York Jet in your lineup outside of Le'Veon Bell. And bet the under on the team total because they can't move the football. Tampa Bay and New Orleans, this is another tough division game this week. Tampa looks like world beaters this week. Jameis Winston wins the FedEx Air Player of the Week. The Saints get a big-time W over my Dallas Cowboys with the help of the referees with a couple of very interesting offensive pass interference calls on my man Amari Cooper. With that being said, I've seen Jameis fail in this spot a lot.
I've seen him fail in this spot a lot, and I'm gonna say something that I really hate to say because I'm from New Orleans. Saints is my team, so it hurts me to say this, but I've seen, first of all, the last two games we won, I didn't think we were gonna win. Mm-hmm. I certainly didn't think we were gonna come out with a win in Seattle against the Seahawks, and I thought Dallas was gonna come in and score a lot more than 10 points they scored. Yeah. So I'm pleasantly surprised. However, this Bruce Arians offense is a real deal. And it looks like Jameis Winston is getting comfortable. Saints are much better against the run than they are against the pass. I think in terms of DVOA against the pass, they're like 26. Jameis is going to be hit or miss, just like his receivers are going to be hit or miss. I mean, I've seen games where against the Saints where Mike Evans has, again, I think last season in the 2 games against the Saints, Mike Evans had one game where he had over 100 yards receiving and a couple of touchdowns against Lattimore. And then the second game, he got completely shut down. So you don't know what you're going to get. However, I'm afraid that the Buccaneers are going to come into town and take this one.
It's interesting that you say that because I very well could see that being the case. Now, with that being said, is Godwin the one on this team now?
Godwin's the one on this team. He's the one that if you had to divide these guys up into cash game versus GPPs, Godwin is the cash game guy, and he's actually the cash game guy and the GPP guy. While Mike Evans is more of the GPP guy because he's the downfield threat. They're both going to get their targets just because the running game is kind of anemic until one of these guys really decides to step up. I know Ronald Jones has shown some improvement, but still not enough for me to really be a blip on my radar. But
I'm not. Free Rojo is a thing, and he's got a lot of action on the waiver wire this week. I'm still no. And OJ Howard is almost cuttable as far as I'm concerned.
I have to cut him. I have to. I mean, if I had him on my team, I mean, I'm as disappointed as anyone else, especially given the offense, especially given the way that it's just disappointing. I mean, that the problem with OJ Howard is one of these games he's going to have himself a game. Not because he's OJ Howard, not because of the offense. It's just because those things happen. Mm-hmm. Just like we talked about with Everett. Wasn't expecting that to happen. OJ Howard's going to have one of those games like that. He's going to be on the waiver wire, and everybody's going to think, this is the time. This is it. It's his breaking out party. And it's just going to be one of those, if you don't catch it when it happens, it's just going to be too late. So if I had him on my team, I'm not going to cut a guy just for the sake of cutting him, but he would certainly be high on my list to be a replaceable asset on my.
You definitely can't start him though, right?
You can't start him. Not with the number of other options that are available this weekend. I mean, if any, you can even stream guys. I know we already talked about that Cincinnati game, but tight ends against the Cardinals. I mean, more often it works. It might not work every time, but more often than not, it will work. And you can pick up guys off the waiver wire that are 2% owned, and these guys can score a touchdown for you. And you can't quite say the same thing for OJ Howard.
No, it will not be the case. Broncos and Chargers, AFC West matchup. Chargers laying 6.5 at home. I don't think the Chargers are 6.5 points better than anybody, but we have seen a slow start out the Broncos this year. Melvin Gordon gets back in the backfield, but I'm still cool throwing Austin Eckler in my starting lineups.
Same here. I was lucky enough to get Eckler, especially on a couple of slow drafts where the news kind of broke as I was drafting. I didn't get Gordon, but I got Eckler. I'm still going to keep running him out there until I can see exactly how things settle, especially with Justin Jackson out. There's basically a 2-man group there. I don't think that it would be wise for them to rush Melvin Gordon back, there's a difference between being in shape and being in game shape. I'm sure he's in shape, but these guys have 5 games under their belt, 4 games under their belt. There's a big difference. So rushing him back just for him to get injured wouldn't be a smart move. So I'm gonna go with Eckler more so. If I have him in season long, I'm playing him, period. In DFS, I'm interested in using him more so as a GPP just because you just don't know. But again, Broncos starting off slowly. If there was ever time to take advantage of it, this was it.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that also. On the Broncos side, I think Emmanuel Sanders is amazing, son. A little bit banged up to start the week, but I think he'll get out there and go. He probably have some low ownership this week too.
He will definitely have some low ownership. Number one, because he's got that little MASH unit sign next to his name, and whenever people see that little injured or that Q for questionable, people don't roster those guys. I'll be the first to admit I apologize to him and his family because at the beginning of the season, there was no way I was touching this dude, man. I said there's absolutely no way he's going to be able to come back even remotely close to how he was. And if anything, he surpassed what he was before. So I really do like him. I think Cortland Sutton's got a tougher matchup. So even though he's been productive as well, if I had to choose between the two, I would certainly choose Emmanuel Sanders.
The Green Bay Packers and my Dallas Cowboys get it on. America's Game of the Week. Joe Buck and used to be Pam Oliver, but now it's not.
Used to love Pam Oliver, man. That was my crush.
Yeah, Pam Oliver had it going on back in the day. I'm a money line my Cowboys. I might throw them in a teaser. I'm not going to let it 3.5. Aaron Rodgers has been a pain in the side of the Dallas Cowboys. This is a big step for them. If they're ready to really take the next step and be somebody that contends deep into the season in the NFC, they got to be able to get rid of the Packers at home.
Yeah, I don't really know what to make of this game. I'm going to go with the Cowboys, and I'm going to go with the 3.5 because, like you said, they need to win this game, especially after a disappointing offensive output against my Saints last week. They really need to do it. The Packers defense, I'm not ready to anoint these guys as the second coming of the best defense in the league, but they have shown some improvement. I do think that they find a way to mix it up. I think no Adams is certainly going to hurt Green Bay, but I think the Cowboys pull it out. I think this is their game to show what they're made of, and I think they got a lot.
Geronimo Allison, MVS also in play this week. No, if we get no Devontae Adams on the Dallas Cowboys side of the ball, Michael Gallup back in the lineup, which is very important. I think Gallup. I think Dak was missing Gallup each of the past 2 weeks. Correct. So Michael Gallup, get him back in your lineup this week as well. And on Sunday night, we'll end off here the Colts and the Kansas City Chiefs. If T.Y. goes, don't mind catching the 11 with the Colts. I like the Colts much better as a dog than I do as a favorite. And with the Chiefs, what this offense is. My thing is, what part of this, where at in this running game do you want to go?
It's a toss-up. The thing is, it's the same thing every week. It's almost like trying to pick a rusher from New England. Anyone at any time can perform. LaShawn McCoy has been doing well, especially when it comes to scoring. So in DFS sites, I'm really big on touchdowns. So in a GPP, I would certainly be interested in him because he's got that touchdown equity. Mm-hmm. I think this is a week where we're not used to having Patrick Mahomes not be on the main slate, so people don't really know what to do.
Yep.
But if you are playing a slate that includes either that Thursday, Sunday, Monday, or Sunday, Monday, I'm gonna have to go with Mahomes. So he's my dude.
Yeah, no doubt. I gotta agree with you. You know how great Son is and what he gets done. So that's the full breakdown as we get ready to head up into Sunday. I want to give a shout out to my man Rad Thad for hopping on and holding it down for Benny.
My pleasure, man. Always happy to jump on and chime in. Appreciate you having me on the show.
Hey, is that a Nick jersey?
That's a Nick jersey, baby. Like the inseam say, once a Nick, always a Nick. I got my Kristaps Porzingis Nick shirt on.
Oh, God.
Man, we could have a whole show about the Knicks. Now,
over under 35 wins.
Under.
Yeah.
Under. Yeah. I don't even have to think about that one.
Yeah, you've been there. The only way it works is not going to happen in free agency. The only way it works in free agency is if Barrett becomes a max level player. If Barrett can become a Rose Rule player in the first couple years,
right,
then I can see people wanting to come to New York. But if not, it's going to be a long struggle. They have to do it through the draft.
Yeah, and he is a talented dude, man. That dude is talented. And 19, he's talented. But I think, my issue with the Knicks is that it almost doesn't matter who is on the roster. When you're playing dudes DNP CDs 2 and 3 games in a row, and then all of a sudden you're giving them 36 minutes, that's just not a winning recipe. But, this is as high as my optimism is going to be, just like every season rooting for the Knicks is before the first game. And then we see how things happen. You know the story. It's just it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what
I just know they're not getting no more of my money. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
that's it. I can't. I listen. I want to go see a basketball game. I go to the Barclays Center. It's just been a. Listen. This is New York City. You know what I'm saying? You can't have a terrible basketball team for 2 decades.
I mean, the mecca of basketball.
Yep, has a terrible basketball.
You gotta be kidding me. I mean, like I said, I could talk to you about this for hours.
All right, we don't have that kind of time, no. Ready for the weekend. Wrap everything up. For my main man, Rad Thad, it's Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. The opening line, we are out.